Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode from Page to Stage. I'm your host, Wendy Corner, and this podcast is for you if you are an entrepreneur. Yes, page and stage come together in an entrepreneur because you will have had lots of work published, either in a solo book, a contributory book, maybe a blog. But regardless of that, you're on socials, aren't you? And what's that if it's not published work? But what about the speaking bit? You may or may not be happy about speaking on stage, but if you're an entrepreneur, don't you go to networking meetings? That's a stage. You might not be ever so happy about talking out loud in the room, but what about a one-on-one conversation? You can do that. You can do a podcast, just like we're doing now. Just saying, come join us. Okay, so that's what your From Page to Stage is all about. Now today, I have the joy and pleasure of introducing you to Michael Chavez. Chavez? Have I said it right?
That's Chavez.
Chavez.
Yes, no worries.
Sometimes you get names wrong because there's certain pronunciations in one part of the world and other pronunciations in another part of the world. So thank you for putting this right, Michael. Michael, I could tell people a little bit about you. I don't know you that well, but I know you very well. So please tell us who you are and how you came to be where you are now.
Well, that's a good question. I grew up in Amarillo, Texas. That's where I'm originally from. Uh, it was a nice experience to grow up there. At the age of 18, I joined the military, and through that experience, I was able to travel around the world and see many parts of the world that I never knew existed, and it was just kind of a dream of mine. I had a successful career in the Navy, and when I separated, or prior to separation, I had this dream of having my own business. And that business was to serve people and to help people to thrive. And I never knew what that was or how it was going to turn out to be. So after I separated, I didn't pursue that dream. I didn't pursue that passion because I didn't know how to get there.
Can I stop you a minute?
Sure.
Separated. Is that the term for leaving the Navy?
Separated, yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Um, Being mindful because I can say I retired, and so people think of retirement in old age. So yeah. So that was one of those things that so I've been separated. I've been retired for going on 22 years now from the Navy.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And 2020 is when I came into personal development. And my mentor who found me was the one who introduced me to Bob Proctor and his teachings.
Right.
And stems from the question I asked in 2020. What is the difference between people who succeed and those who don't? And so
Good
this has been
question.
my journey of studying this.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. And of course, 2020 was the year that we all had to do a little bit of navel gazing because
Right.
we had no opportunity of looking outward in quite the same way. Oh yes, I mean, I think that was a year for mixed blessings, shall we say? But yeah, so you got involved with the Bob Proctor team.
Yes, yes, I did.
Cool.
And
Were you you're one of their qualified
I'm
coaches?
a consultant with them. I don't work for them directly. I just get to market their products and use their products not only for my benefit, but to show other people how to use them to their benefit.
Love it, love it. Thank you. And that's where you are. I want to take you back in time because you have this book out, which came out in reminders.
It was published in January,
January
January 17th. Yes.
2025.
Yes, this
Yeah.
past January.
So not long ago. Great. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. My apologies. So your book came out in January. Take us back in time. When did you first start writing? I don't mean the mechanics of it because we were all roughly around the same age. But when did you start to get the idea that, yeah, do you know, this writing thing actually works for me?
Well, my sister and I were having a conversation, my younger sister. And so I was sharing some of my life experiences, and they told me, you should write a book. And the first thought that came to my mind is, well, my life's not that interesting.
Yes.
This kind of symbolizes how we judge ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a pastor at the church that I attend who said the same thing. And I thought, I wonder, what kind of book would I write? And so the idea of if I want to write a book, people don't know me,
Mm-hmm.
but what kind of book could I write that people would really want to read?
Yes.
So my book titled The Power of Everyday Habits, Blueprint for Tomorrow. How can I use my experiences and the things I learned and share
Mm.
them with other people so that they can achieve what it is they want in life? And that was kind of how the book came into being.
Right. Right. That's this particular book. But is this? Have you written all through life? Were you a creative writer as a child? Did you journal? How did your writing things start?
Well, it's funny that because I was thinking about this earlier. Uh, in grade school, I was in remedial reading and remedial math because they said I was a slow learner.
Okay.
But I always loved art, drawing pictures and music, things like that. And over time, I just enjoyed, I guess, when I get to a certain point, I just started writing. And like the English classes in college, they would put me in English 101 from a slow learner to like 101. I'm thinking, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always been inspired by, how can I put it, thought leaders like
Okay.
Plato, Aristotle, people who ask probing questions about life and things in general. So I started studying that. And one of the things too was like when I told a friend of mine that I wanted to write a book, I had a different title in mind, which that book is also in the process of being published. We're just not going to publish it at the same time.
Yeah.
And that one is called Transforming Depression to a Prosperous Life. How do you go
Transformative
from that?
questions for a prosperous life.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice.
'Cause so many people feel, I guess, a sense of hopelessness
Mm-hmm.
because there's nobody to show them or to guide them. And that's where I was. That's why I used the mentors. Like, and what I really loved about this mentor is they taught me how to love myself. So how can I share that with other people?
Oh, definitely. Well, great. Okay, so that's another book that's coming out. Do you have a projected date for that one?
My publisher suggested to me to wait till like the middle of the year.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So
So we don't want to step on that.
focus at the moment on marketing the first book, then bring it in with the second one. Yeah.
Right.
Nice. Golly, 2025 is a productive year for you, sir. Hey.
Yeah, it has been. And continue to keep my mind focused on that because when I said, that first thought, I said, well, my life's not that interesting. Wanting to stay focused on the positive so that you don't fall into that back into that comfort zone.
Yes. Yeah. I I actually call it a familiar zone because sometimes it's not comfortable, but it's just what we know.
Yes.
So I vouch for that because my late husband was stuck in a very uncomfortable rut, but he couldn't get out of it because it took courage to get out of the unfamiliar. But it certainly wasn't comfortable where he was. But yeah, absolutely. So the book. So you're writing got going with this book that you've published this year.
Oh, yes. And trying to think, how do I communicate better with others?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the goal.
Nice.
Um,
Nice.
so I use,
Have you got the writing bug now? I
have
know,
I got the
there's
writing
another one
bug?
coming out
Yes.
in the middle of the year, but are you prompted to go, oh, I could write about that. I could write about that.
It's funny because I have had many thoughts. I just need to write them down so that I don't forget about them.
Yes. Sticky notes.
Uh,
I always have sticky notes around. So when an idea comes up, quick, write it down because I can't remember everything. And these brilliant ideas come in and you go, what was I thinking about? Oh no, it's gone. But if you've got a sticky note to pad to hand, you can get it down immediately.
I use one of these,
Yeah, yep.
and it's this way it doesn't clutter my desk, and all my thoughts are in there.
Yes. Great, great. Now, the reason I use that is because it slips into a purse. So even if I'm traveling around, I can simply pick it out of my pouch and write something down at the moment. Horses for courses. Right. So that was your writing journey. Tell us a bit more about the speaking work that you do.
I think when I got to a certain point in writing my book, that's when my mentor, he's an author as well, and his name is Daniel Gomez, and they said he's one of the top 10 motivational speakers in the world. So it's like he got me up on stage, and that's kind of trying to put the two together to be an author and, of course, being a speaker.
Yes.
And I have a very strong introvert personality.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go to a party where there's like 300 people, and I can find one person and spend my entire time with that one person and have a great time.
Absolutely. That's exactly what works for your personality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm hearing from you that the sort of rah-rah stages just not where you're comfortable or even would shy away from. Is that right?
To an extent, as I was working with my mentor, I had this vision of being on stage,
Right.
which was strange because it's like, as an introvert, how many introverts do you know want to be on stage?
Not many that will confess it.
Exactly.
But you know,
And
there are people, I mean, Brendan Burchard will tell you he's an introvert.
yes,
And yet,
Simon Sinek too.
exactly. Yet they bring it on stage. And part of the thing for them is that they are speaking to one person. They are focused, no matter how many people in the room, they're focused on speaking to one person. And that gives them the ability to face a crowd, because in their mind, they're speaking to one person. It could be a serial, and it usually is a serial number of one persons. But if that's the way that it takes for you to get out onto a big stage, there you go, audience, a quick tip. If you consider yourself an introvert and the call is there to get onto a stage, a large stage, try that one on for size. I interrupted you, Michael, forgive me.
You're
So,
fine.
so your mentor is, and you having the vision for getting onto larger stages. How is that going?
Um, for me, it's kind of slowed down. My mentor is in a different city. You know, we're both in Texas, but they're in a different city. Um, and it's just a matter of me networking more and finding the right people or attracting the right people.
Yes.
Because how I understand it and what's come to my attention, you want to focus on one topic, not 50 topics.
Yes. Get
And
known for one thing.
yes, and then once you get that one thing going, then you can expand. But it's about an energy thing.
Mm-hmm. You've got to connect. You need to connect with your topic
Hmm.
really at a very visceral level, and then the authenticity comes through, and your audience will feel you, not just hear you, they'll feel you. Love it. And I mean, on the way, there are different sorts of stages, as you mentioned earlier on. I mean, there's the podcast, there's virtual stages, and you and I met on an international networking group. That's where you can get your message out to a wider world, refine the message, get the feedback, and then you can, along the journey, introduce yourself to event managers, because some of the virtual event managers also do live events as well. And the event management work will talk to each other. So if you wow them in one situation, they'll pass your name on to other people. Just quick tip there, audience. So, Michael, we are in the virtual world at the moment, increasing your footprint in the virtual world en route to doing some more live stage work. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Cool.
I don't know if I was invited to speak in an international conference, and it's coming up in a couple of weeks.
Fantastic. Where's that?
It's hosted in France, in Paris.
Right. So you're going over to France, or are you doing a live link to it?
I'm doing a live link to it. When they first reached out to me, I'm thinking, how did you find me? Because I didn't have that print, right? And I was thinking, are they for real?
Uh-huh.
And come to find out they are for real
Yes.
because they have different levels of speakers.
Yeah.
And right now, I think they had like close to 200 speakers. I'm thinking
Mhm.
this is a large capacity of speaking. It's supposed to be over 2 days. I'm thinking, well, that's a lot of talking.
Yes. Yeah. The audience are in the room as well as online?
From what I understand, they are. I need to get more details about it because there's a friend of mine who wants to attend, somebody I met through the virtual world. And so just finding that out and getting them connected and getting them signed up. And
Yeah. Yeah. No, I have been approached by the Paris lot on a few occasions and not gone forward with it yet. So it'll be interesting to hear your experience from the inside.
it is going to be, well, it's definitely going to be way outside of my comfort zone.
I honor your courage, sir. So I mean, it'll be recorded, won't it?
Yes, that's what I gather.
Good. Make sure you get access to that recording, because that's check out on the contract who's got the rights to the IP. That's the other thing to bear in mind. Whenever you do one of these conferences, the recording, who has the intellectual copyright on it? Because sometimes when you go onto these stages, they say, that's ours. And, oh, actually, that's my material. And you just laid claim to it? So read the fine print is what I'm saying. No, you're already committed to this, but do check on the access to the recording and whether or not you can publish it on your sites. At least put links to it, and then you have make sure you get a logo and you put that as seen on as part of your promotional material.
I'm going to have to get my logo done. I have one, but I was thinking about changing it.
Uh-huh. But yes, I mean, you also get their logo, which you
Oh,
can
yeah.
put on your socials, your as seen on banner, because that's the point. Audience, when you start getting onto different platforms, different podcasts and things, grab the logo of the people that you're speaking to and create your as seen on banner. Now that will be a work in progress. It will be dynamic, because as bigger stages come on board, more prestigious stages come on board, you might lose a couple of the early ones, but you build up
Yes.
credibility with the as seen on banner. I'm working on mine at the moment. It's requiring a little bit of tweaking. So yes, make sure I mean, if you're happy with your logo, go for it, but have something that captures Michael and Michael's theme, your zone of genius. Your words have power.
Yes.
The power of the flame, the inspiration. You've got the igniting of other people with your words, and also yourself. So yeah, beautiful. Okay, so we've talked about your speaking journey, your writing journey. Tell us more about this book, because you said it came out in January 2025. Give us a bit
Yes,
more of a taster.
it's funny because it was originally just a small workbook because I was doing workshops, and I
Okay.
called it my habits workshop. And so I was having a conversation with my mentor about that at their place. So he suggested that I make it into a book. And so it's amazing how you can take 4 pieces of paper and turn it into like a 26 page workbook.
Yeah.
So that one was already done, but I added some more to it. Like, what are the habits that so many people miss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Gratitude and forgiveness.
Oh, biggies.
Yes. I mean, how can you save your relationship, or how can you strengthen your relationship by practicing the concept of forgiveness,
Yeah.
right? Um, Carrying a grudge, I'm speaking from experience, is that it really just takes away from the relationship and just leaves such a bad taste in your mouth for too long.
Yes.
Um, I've been divorced going on 12 years now, 11 years, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
this year. Not really being angry with my ex. I don't hate her. She's a very intelligent, very beautiful woman. But just that experience is like, you don't want to go around hating somebody because that doesn't serve you any purpose. And so this is one of the things that I put in my book, the forgiveness, practicing that daily.
Yeah. And it's not just forgiving other people, is it? It's also forgiving ourselves, which is one of the things that we often consider forgiveness of others and don't forgive ourselves.
Right, exactly. Because imagine the number of times criticized yourself or spoke poorly of yourself, or you allowed somebody to make you feel angry,
Yeah.
and that what you were angry about just really served little purpose at all. Because I mean, it's just that person never goes, you never see that person again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
And
freeing yourself from keeping hold of it. It's not mine to carry. Let it go. Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
It's like taking out the garbage, if you will.
Exactly. That's a really good analogy. A really good analogy. Yeah. Okay. So the habits, you go through a bit more of the habits of the good building blocks habits.
Yes, good building blocks. In achieving goals, the mentors I work with, they talk about the gratitude, being grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
And the forgiveness is a part of that gratitude. And as I've been studying the Bible and reading the Bible for the last 25 years, it's like, it finally came to me. It's like, what does the Bible instruct us to do? To forgive before we pray.
Yeah.
So you wash your hands before you eat. So you cleanse yourself of that bitterness and that whatever it is you're feeling. And then you can sit there and give more freely to the praise or to whoever it is you're dealing with. And then that's when your blessings come because you've emptied yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's it. You see, you're holding on to things so tightly. How are you actually going to be open to receive when your fists are clenched? You can't.
Yeah, definitely no.
Let go and then, yeah, I'm open. Thank you. I'm here. Yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, Michael. So we've talked about a little bit more about the book. Who is your target audience for the book?
My target audience, that's a good question. I wanted to, like, I'm 60 years old, but I wanted to see if I can help the younger people, 35 to 45,
Okay.
maybe younger. That way they're not getting to be 50 and 60 or 70 years old saying, what if, or I wish,
I wish, yes.
right? So if I can save somebody 25 years of misery through my books, then I've succeeded.
Yeah. So we're looking at the people who are going through their midlife crisis,
Exactly.
because that's the time when younger folk, and I'm with you in the age bracket, that's when younger folk go, is this all there is? And that's when you can jump in with this book and go, well, actually, no, you can
Yeah,
let go of some of the crap you've already been holding on to so that you can move forward and get even more juice out of life. Love it.
definitely.
So the podcasts that you've done so far, who have they been aimed at? Who's the audience?
You know, originally my first podcast was basically, it was mine. It was mostly supposed to be for veterans,
Okay.
but I don't know who heard it. The media company who produced it, they're here locally here in Texas. And they were a small media group, but they were the ones who invited me to have my first podcast.
Right. So you were
And
holding the podcast, you were actually hosting it.
right.
Got it. Okay.
And I just had to show up. They had all the equipment and all the stuff that, which saved me a ton of work and study.
Yes.
And but to me, I think more my focus would be introverts
So you
because
want to be on podcasts whose audience is introverts.
introverts, yes. Because as I reflect on my journey, um, you've heard of the book The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, right?
Yes.
Yes. And when I first heard the name, I didn't understand. I didn't grasp that concept, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And as I was listening to Earl Nightingale one particular time, he goes, the Walter Mitties of the world. The Walter Mitties. So, okay, so that's a pseudonym for the daydreamers, those people who are obscure. They're in the background and they dream of something more, something bigger, right?
Mm,
And but they have that fear because of that self-judgment or believing they're not good enough.
yeah.
And I think that's where many introverts are. They want to write a book. They want to be up on stage, maybe, and secretly. Or maybe they want that special someone in their life, but they're just too afraid to talk to that person.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. There's that self-criticism, that almost putting a barrier up, a wall
Yes,
around you to go, I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't. And therefore you don't, because your subconscious will always do what your conscious is telling it.
definitely.
Oh, right. Okay. So you're looking at getting onto stages that speak directly to introverted people.
Yes, and go
So
ahead.
virtual is going to be your big opportunity there, because introverts don't particularly like being in large rooms.
You know, for the most part, yeah, yeah,
Cool. Cool. Well, let's see if we can't introduce you to some other people who are podcasters, event managers, for people who recognize themselves as being more introverted. Now, quick personal aside, I would always have called myself an extrovert until I suddenly lost my husband. Because up until the age of 42, I had literally spent 2 nights on my own ever. And then suddenly I'm on my own and had to get used to my own company. And now I kind of realize that I don't think I am an extrovert. I'm an ambivert. Because yes, I like to be around people, but I also get to the stage where I'm all peopled out. I'm sure you can relate to the all peopled out, to just get me into a corner and recharge on my own. Thank you.
definitely, definitely.
So the fact that I'm straddling both of them now, I can appreciate both experiences. And I would say now that I probably am slightly more on the introverted side. So it is a spectrum. It's not an either or. Um,
It is. There's a book, I forget the woman's name, but it's called Introvert Power.
Nice.
And I started reading it, and it's more feminine than it is masculine. So
Mm-hmm.
so she puts a lot of feminism in there.
Right.
Um, but as she wrote in her book, I think the last name is Hogue, if I remember correctly. Um, the About 86% of the population are introverts, but you wouldn't know that.
Well, no, because they don't make a song and dance about it, do they?
No, they don't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a lot of the people I network, or actually the first group of individuals I networked with in 2021, it's a networking group. It's called it's membership of Business Network International, BNI.
Mm-hmm.
And so most of them people, the individuals in that group, they're introverts.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just, the birds of a feather flock together and just rings so,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
And of course, the thing with BNI is that there's an expectation, or part of your commitment to it is that you introduce other people to each other, so
right.
that you are, if you like, forced to get to know other people. That is part of your commitment to BNI. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Love it. Right. Thank you. So tell me, you're doing the writing, you're doing the speaking. How do you embody your words when you take them from page to stage?
How do I embody them?
Hmm.
When I sit down and I write my gratitude in my journal, what I try to stay grounded are the words of love, kindness, and compassion, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's so easy to judge and to criticize, but it's a challenge to sit there and twist it to be compassionate for another and to see another person for who they are and not what you think they should be.
Yes, that's a very important distinction, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And to me, it's like a daily practice. Um, I've had those experiences where I was talking to managers when I was a security supervisor. And in the middle of the conversation, they would just grab their phone and they would start scrolling through their text messages or looking through their pictures. That was really, that really turned me off. I mean, it's like, that's very disrespectful.
Mm.
I'm the supervisor and they're the manager, and then they just didn't listen. So how can I use that for my advantage? It's like learning how to communicate. And this is
Mm.
what I want to help other people. It's like, okay, well, it's easy to sit there and hold a grudge and just say, not going to talk to you anymore. But if you have a message, you have something you want to share, suppressing those emotions and suppressing those thoughts, that's not very healthy. And it leads to depression and just that lack of fulfillment, if you will.
Yes.
And that's kind of how I embody it. It's like, what do I want to share with other people? So hoping and just praying that if I just reach one person, like you talked about Simon Sinek and uh, I forget the other guy's name, but
Brendan
just
was
talking to
saying,
that one person. Yeah. And that's the goal, is to talk to that one person, because you never know whose life you're going to impact.
absolutely, absolutely. And when you make that connection with the one person, everybody else in the room feels that you're talking to them as well. And
Yes.
they're the only person there because you're talking directly to them. Quick aside note, audience, when you're doing virtual work, look directly at the camera, because then you're talking to your audience. Eye contact, so important. Yeah.
I
Oh,
need to practice that more.
well, the thing is, we're hardwired to look at faces.
Right.
And the way I've got us set up is I have our pictures, one underneath the other, immediately underneath the camera. So this is looking at you, looking at camera, you, camera, you, camera. There's a very subtle difference. Whereas when you have people side by side and you're looking at them and talking to their face over here, it's kind of obvious. So Just a quick aside. And the more you do it, the more you actually, your peripheral vision improves so that you can see the reactions of the people immediately under your camera. Beautiful.
Learn something new.
Michael, thank you. Well, that's the aim. I drop in a few things on the way. I was recording a podcast, a physical podcast with a friend in a studio here in Kuala Lumpur yesterday. And we've spoken at length, and I've just given him a couple of tips. And there he is on this podcast explaining the things that he'd learned from me and putting them into practice there and then. And I go, oh, something stuck. Yay. So
Yeah.
that's the point. When I'm in a situation where I know I can add some value, kind of do. Just saying. Okay, so Michael, we've talked about your speaking journey, your writing journey, your lovely book that's out now. How are you so you're on podcasts, marketing. How else are you marketing this book?
Social media, LinkedIn and Facebook. I use
And are
Chat
you
GPT.
leading with the Are You an Introvert?
Not honestly. No, I haven't been.
Okay. Well, if that's your target audience, go straight for the jugular. Do you consider yourself an introvert? Well, read on, listen on. And you've set the scene immediately. I mean, yes, other people could
Yeah.
come in on it as well. It's not as though you're excluding other people, but if that's your target audience,
Yeah.
then
One of the things that I shared with somebody in the past is we all have the same problems. Relationships, finances, um, business, employment, the same worries.
mm-hmm.
And I think that's what so many people miss.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter your ethnicity or country of origin. It's all the same.
Yeah. Might have different clothes on it, but they're still
Right?
the same skeletons.
Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So as you say, there are universal themes that anyone can pick up and go, yeah, I recognize this in me. Beautiful. Thank you. So
Definitely.
you've got an international audience, you've got a primarily introverted audience. But the thing is, extroverts can read it and go, oh, that makes sense now. Not only to me, but also the introverts I know. And the introverts I know, oh, you could do with reading this. This is a really good book. Just saying. People don't exclude themselves. Michael, as we're winding up, do you have any final words of wisdom for us?
Final words of wisdom. Whatever it is you're dreaming of, whatever it is that's on your heart that you've carried with you for however long, since childhood or whatever, if you're not pursuing that, do so. Because you don't get a do-over.
Yes. Yeah. You don't want to sit at the end of your days going, if only.
I've had many days like that, and this is why I share it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is, we never know when our end days are. So don't wait until it's pretty obvious and you're breathing your last. Take each day as, am I fulfilling my dreams? Yeah. Oh, Michael, so inspirational. So inspirational. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your from page to stage.
I thank you for the invitation, and I just getting away from my comfort zone and meeting you through the uh, Speaker Connect. And I'm not overly baffled, but it's like, how did I find them and how did this come into my view? But it's like that idea of being on stage. And so it's been a great pleasure.
Good, 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 good. I'm looking forward to seeing more and more of you on other stages. And do let us know how the Paris gig goes.
I definitely will.
Yeah. Well, when you put a splash on it, to talk about it on the way out to the Paris gig, you'll have some swipe copy. You'll have copy. I'm sure they've given you copy to be advertising it. Grab the logo if not. Say how excited you're getting about this big event. And then tag people. Those that you know are influencers, those that you know could share your stuff as well. Include me in that, and I'll share it too.
Oh, definitely I will.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Michael, for sharing you from page to stage. For us, bye for now.